바네사 만자베카 선생님 모시고 함께 토론 세션 이어가도록 하겠습니다.
So thank you, Paolo. I know very well your movie's reality because movies and Concourto Film Festival are in the same region of Italy, and we worked together in some preview edition of Concorto. 2 years ago, we screened the 2001, and we'll work together in the next one. And in addition, I'm a movies collaborator too, so I'm quite familiar with the Paolo Simoni presentation, and I'm happy to confirm what he say about the movie's identity and the movie's contribution to the Italian culture scene, because its work is fundamental. Its work about the preservation and the valorization of the private film heritage is fundamental, especially in the different strategies and the curatorial approach on how to make finally this heritage accessible, starting from Archivio Aperto, but also from the digital platform that give the possibility to watch a significant number of family film free and worldwide. And I'd like to start by talking about the platform, especially Memoryscape, because if we think about our N-screen era, as we say, it's quite obviously today giving to the public the possibility to watch film online. But when these movies are own movies, I guess there are some important questions to consider. The first one is an ethic question related to the fact that these films are private materials, and the second one is connected to their original format, as we said before. And in addition, with the online screening, this dimension that is really important is lost, and also the way on this material are watched, because in their origin, as we say, your movies were watched together with families, with friends, and it was a moment of participation, exhibition, and collective sharing. So what are the movies' consideration on this point, and what could be developed or integrated into the platform, into the platform, in the idea to connect the user, their comments, observation, and feeling about the film we are watching.
Thank you, Vanessa. About Memoryscape, I mean, is not a traditional database online, because usually we have also database for filmmakers that want to search our archive for different purpose. Memoryscape is mainly a way to surface the archive, not to go deep, just to have bits and pieces of the archive, and to have an idea or stimulate curiosity on the film collection, on certain themes or certain places or ages that are represented. Of course, publishing a movies material is not controversial, but anyway, is something different than publishing a normal film, a feature film, because of the private content. And there are rights of the image of the people represented that have to be respected, and we consider that the film and the film collection coming to our archive were collected from the people, from the donor, from the families that gave to the archive their heritage with the idea of sharing. This is the first consideration you have to say about this. But also there is another issue that is anyway material that is important for its historical values. Then you have to be in between respect of the private and historical perspective. Then with time you make available private things or films that before were not available. There are different cases for and there's a long discussion maybe to do. Anyway, Film Archives usually has like a policy of doing the right thing at the best they can do. There is no a rule of, there is an ethic of the archival work, but not a rule or a law that can stop us to work in a way or in another. On the, if I'm not wrong, on the way of make a development of memoryscapes in terms of involving people, for example, commenting or interacting with film. I don't know if memoryscape will be the right platform. Maybe yes, maybe it could be another platform. It depends. We experimented a lot this kind of interaction. Maybe it's not so easy to deal with. For example, we have a lot of people writing to us, saying something about the publishing clips or films, saying, for example, something about places not recognized. Then we collect the information and we verify the information and we correct the description, for example, if there are some errors or whatever. But there is no now a way of do this without filters. Otherwise, you can have every comment and everything could be dangerous for the private issue that you mentioned before. Maybe I answered.
Yes. And about the digital platform, we talk about the Movies 100 project, which has a curatorial approach totally different from Memoryscape, and the Almanacco we saw before is really an extraordinary and revolutionary way to interrogate the archive, and also to present the everyday life, connecting the history to the last century with the contemporary. And it's also a way to make accessible the movies heritage, and as we say, and to create a community of passionate users that every day waited for the clip, that commented the clip on a social network, but also a starting point for new and different curatorial paths, since you can mix the 30,065 films in different way, chronological, thematic, etc. And it's also a project rich of experimentation, because Paolo didn't say before that each clip is as a live sonorization from different musician and sound designer. And so my question is, how did you work on the selection, and what was and what is the impact of this work on the archive in terms of discovery and new curatorial ideas?
First of all, the selection. The selection, as I said, 100 years of movies making or amateur filmmaking or whatever it is, but is mainly a brief century since the 20s to the end of the 80s, because we are working with analog film all the time, than this small gauge film format I was mentioning. The selection. The idea was a challenge for the archive, like let's find for all the day of the year a film that was shot that day, because you know there were birthdays with date. There are Christmas. There are public events with date. There were with date labeled on the film. The people wrote birthday on this day. Then that film was shot on this day. But also the people was filming, I don't know, a car race, and there was the date of this car race, or you can reconstruct through research. Or there are political and public events that were shot from the view of the private, then not officially, and this was interesting too. And there are many different ways of dating, but it really was a challenge. Some of them were they are date that we guess, but we are not sure for 100% that was exactly that day. But it was, if it was not that day, it was that moment, that period that the people were living. Then we tried to build a portrait of the 20th century through the calendar and also through the seasons, through the different seasons one after the others, through the rides, private and public, and but not to do something that is chronological. Besides, on the platform you can see also a timeline of the film. Then you can see in the time and not through the calendar. Yes, but it was a new ways, I think, to combine this part of the archives. It was inspired in a way by Jonas Mecker's work that was called 365 Days Project, that consisted in publishing each day of the year 2007, I think, a part of his daily diary on internet. It was an inspirational project, of course, but also other there are other inspirations, like a book by Christa Wolf, the German writer, that is called One Day, One Year. I don't know, probably like this English title. And she wrote one day of the year, one day of September, for 40 years, the history of his life, and then the history of Germany. Then she did this with an intention, with not like a diary, but with the idea of writing one day of the year, the story of this day, but also of the changing of Germany through 40 years. Then this was another inspiration. But there are many different. But also you ask for others, maybe for other.
No, it's
okay.
네, 수고하셨습니다. 땡큐. 이 세션의 토론을 위해서 미래유 트랑블레-카롱 그 사그네이 단편영화제 프로그래머 선생님을 모시겠습니다.
Thank you. Yes, well, it was so interesting. I was just reading again all the notes, and the first question in my head that came is, as you were talking about public as private screening, about the fact that it's not only the quality of the experience of watching movies that seems to have changed, but maybe also the quality of the public itself. Like, for example, if I take a young generation who have, they are in contact with so much platforms and information and social media, and they may feel bored about the fact that they have so much choices. So do you think the quality of public has changed with the evolutions of the experience of watching with different technologies?
저는 플랫폼이 다양화됐기 때문이 아니라 이 젊은 세대들은 문자로 지식을 배우는 세대가 아니라 태어나면서부터 영상으로 세상을 배우는 세대였다고 생각을 합니다. 그러니까 저는 어렸을 때 아까도 얘기했지만 그 영화를 보는 경험은 아주 특별한 상영관에 누군가 어른이 데려가줘야 볼 수 있는 경험이거나 학교에서 단체 관람을 가야 볼 수 있었던 세대인데 요즘 아이들은 태어나는 순간에 그 광고를 보고 애니메이션을 보고 다양한 어린이 채널을 보고 그리고 그런 걸 통해서 지식을 습득을 합니다. 그런데다가 요즘의 그 테크놀로지의 발전은 굉장히 빨리 바뀌기 때문에 그런 부분에 대해서도 이제 뭐 어른들은 그 스마트폰 하나를 바꾸게 되면은 이 바뀐 스마트폰의 사용 방법을 배우기 위해서 이것도 해보고 저것도 해보고 못 쓰겠어 이런 경우들이 있는데 그냥 요즘 어린 세대들은 바뀐 기계를 툭툭툭 만져보면 그냥 없던 기능까지 찾아내서 쓸 수가 있거든요. 그러니까 이거는 플랫폼이 다양화되어서 관객의 수준이 바뀐 부분도 물론 있겠지만은 이들은 영상적으로 사고하고 영상적으로 반응하는 세대라고 생각합니다. 그러니까 바뀐 플랫폼만큼 이들이 가지고 있는 어떤 활동이나 지식이나 소통 방식도 확장될 거라고 생각합니다.
Okay, thank you. And if I'm not talking just about the public experience, but for the director, the person who are making the films today, as I work in a short film festival, so I know how much it's hard for the short filmmakers who are trying to put their film on the map, you know, of the world. So festivals are making alive these art piece, and I'm thinking about the fact that if we do cinema today, if we make short films, or if we make documentaries, or independent cinema, is it with the same purpose than it was before? Do we change if we are not sure to be seen in theaters and only maybe 1 or 2 times in festivals? What are the spirits to do it? No.
이게 바로 제가 영화제를 만든 이유입니다. 왜냐하면 지금에 와서 우리가 흔히 극장이다라고 얘기하는 영화 상영관들은 상업영화 90분에서 120분 정도의 그 시간대를 가진 헐리우드 블록버스터 위주의 영화들에게 적합한 영화들로만 선택을 합니다. 그런데 어떤 사람은 저 아까 이제 보여주셨던 그 2001 그 페일리어 보고서 막 웃었는데 스페이스 오디세이를 패러디한 그렇게 짧은 영화가 어디에서 상영될 수 있을까? 그게 극장일 수도 있지만 극장이 아니더라도 누군가에게 보여주기 위해서 만든다고 생각을 합니다. 극장이란 말의 어원은 연극에서 왔죠. 연극의 3요소라고 하면은 무대, 배우, 거기에 관객입니다. 원래 시애터에는 이 3가지가 같이 있는 거죠. 극장에는. 그런데 오늘날 영화에는 이게 같이 있지 않은 곳이 만들어진 게 OTT라든가 아니면은 그 스트리밍 서비스입니다. 창작자와 관객이 만나서 누군가 내 영화를 보고 있다라는 느낌을 갖게 하기 위해서는 가장 먼저 이 소통의 장소가 필요하고, 특히 저도 이제 제가 만든 영화제는 그 SF 독립 영화들 위주로 하는 영화제인데, 이 영화제에도 당연히 아주 다양한 포맷과 다양한 시간대의 영화들이 옵니다. 그런데 제가 이 영화제를 만들면서 국제공모를 한번 해볼까 해서 국제공모를 시작한 첫 해에 전 세계에서 무려 1,500편이 넘는 영화가 오게 됩니다. 왜냐하면 독립영화를 만들고 짧은 중단편 영화들을 만드는 사람들은 그 영화를 어디선가 초청할 수 있다는 가능성만으로도 그 영화제에 정말 아주 기꺼이 자기 영화를 출품을 하는 것입니다. 그러니까 겨우 그 중에 30-40편만 상영될 기회를 갖게 하기 위해서 영화제를 만드는 사람들이 예심하고 골라내고 자막 만들고 그러면서 너무 행복해서 내년에도 이 영화제를 또 해야지. 내년에도 또 해야지. 그러니까 그 다음에는 더 많은 영화들이 오는 거예요. 그런데 그 많은 영화들을 저희가 다 선택하고 그분들을 초청할 수 없는 것이 저희의 물질적 한계이기 때문에 그게 좀 안타깝지만 지금 말씀하신 대로 영화제가 그래서 굉장히 중요하다고 생각을 합니다. 그뿐만 아니라 하나의 긍정적인 사례를 말씀드리자면 저희 영화제에서 상을 받고 사전 제작 지원 받았던 영화들이 올해에는 홍콩에서 테크포 굿 필름 페스티벌이라는 새로운 페스티벌이 만들어졌을 때 그쪽에 초청을 받아서 다른 나라에서 상영될 기회까지도 갖게 되었다는 것입니다.
I agree with you. So may we conclude that film festivals are the best way to be screened and the best way to the best place to be as a filmmakers, of course, because the quality of the audience and the support also that film festival teams provides to filmmakers.
그렇죠. 저는 정말 영화제는 영화인과 영화를 사랑하는 관객들, 시네필드를 위해서는 가장 좋은 상영 조건이라고 생각을 하고 그것이 제가 보기에는 퍼블릭 스퀘어라고 생각을 합니다. 물론 예전에 그 칼리가리 박사의 밀실 그 갇혀있는 미치광이와는 다르게 지금 혼자 영화를 보는 분들은 댓글창이라든가 뭐 어떤 커뮤니티 같은 걸 통해서 서로 소통을 합니다. 왜 그럴까요? 그들도 자신들만의 그 온라인 공간에서 자신들의 광장이 필요하기 때문이라고 생각을 합니다. 그리고 그런 아까 말씀하셨던 젊은 세대들, 영상 세대들이 열린 공간으로 영화제라는 물리적 공간으로 나오지 않더라도 그 안에서 온라인 안에서 퍼블릭 스페이스를 가져야 되는데 지금 OTT의 방식은 약간 위험하다. 왜 위험하냐면은 처음에 넷플릭스가 생겼을 때는 예를 들어서 하나의 가입 아이디로 4사람이 볼 수 있었어요. 그랬는데 이제 요즘은 그런 게 안 되고 그리고 요즘은 애플 TV, 왓챠 뭐 이제 다양한 여러 OTT가 생기면서 가입비를 낸 사람이 하나의 아이디로만 볼 수 있게 한다. 이렇게 하는 것은 옛날에 에디슨 방식하고 같다고 생각합니다. 내가 돈 내고 나 혼자 보고 누구와도 소통하지 않게 하는 이런 방식에서 어떻게 공정성과 다양한 사람들의 기회와 만남의 기회를 만들어 가느냐는 상업적으로만 살아남을 수 있는 영화가 아니라 소통이라는 의미로 살아남을 수 있는 영화들을 위한 모색이 필요한 시기가 아닌가 생각합니다.
Thank you a lot. Thanks a lot.
네, 저도 추가적인 질문을 좀 드려도 될까 싶은데 이제 발제하신 내용 중에 보면 어쨌거나 이 영화의 플랫폼들이 다양화되고 있고 또 관객들의 영상 체험들도 아예 달라지고 있다는 것을 인정해야 된다라고 주장하셨지만 또 지금 마지막 대답에서도 어느 정도 들어보면 여전히 예전의 영화관이 가졌던 어떤 공동체적인 경험들 의 중요성을 또 이야기하고 계신 것 같고 또 혹은 영화제라는 특별한 형식을 통해서 체험할 수 있는 그런 다양한 영화적 경험들을 여전히 강조하고 계신 것 같기도 합니다. 그래서 사실 이런 영화제에서 이런 행사가 열리는 이유도 보면 오프라인 중심의 영화제들이 뭔가 달라지는 매체 환경 속에서 뭔가 변화해야 되는가 혹은 변화하려면 어떤 방향이어야 하는가를 고민하고 있는 것도 같고 또 앞선 발제에서 보면 또 온라인을 이용한 또 하나의 가능성도 보여준 것도 같습니다. 아무튼 조금 얘기가 길어질 수도 있겠지만 말씀하신 이 광장의 문화, 밀신의 문화 거의 양분할 수는 없겠지만 하나의 경향성의 흐름은 있는 것 같은데요. 영화제도 운영하고 계시고 예술영화관도 운영하셨고 그런 입장에서 이런 영상문화의 방향성에서 광장과 밀실 사이의 관계를 어떻게 형성해야 되는지 혹시 조금 더 구체적으로 말씀해 주실 수 있을까요?
사실 발터 베냐민이 얘기를 할 때 물론 그런데 독립영화나 예술영화들은 1인 제작인 경우도 있지만은 사실은 영화라는 것이 한 사람의 예술가가 창작하는 것이 아니라 사실은 스태프들도 있고 그리고 사실 예전에는 에디슨 리미에르 시절만 해도 영사기 하나도 비쌌고 카메라도 굉장히 비쌌고 그 렌즈는 더 비쌌고 그런데 이제 디지털화 되면서 좀 그 제작할 수 있는 방법도 다양해지고 제작비도 낮아졌어요. 그렇다면은 이제 가끔 이제 저는 한국에서 상업 영화들이 얘기할 때 그 어떤 블록버스터급의 영화만을 전제로 하지만 오히려 의외의 그 관객들의 호응을 받는 영화들은 저예산이지만 대중과 호흡할 수 있는 어떤 정서가 있는 영화들이 있는 경우들이 참 많거든요. 그리고 제가 이번에 홍콩에 가서 굉장히 좋았던 게 그 홍콩 테크포그 필름 같은 어떤 취지로 만들어지냐면은 영상 세대인 청년들이 자신의 카메라를 들고 자신의 얘기를 영상으로 만들어서 공유하는 장을 만들자. 그래서 영화인들이 그들에게 멘토가 되고 만든 영화를 상영하는 영화제가 테크포그 필름 페스티벌이었어요. 이런 식으로 저는 창작자와 수용자의 그 엄밀한 구분이 테크놀로지의 발전에 따라서 없어질 수 있다. 쌍방향적일 수도 있지만 누구나가 창작자가 될 수도 있다라는 생각이 들거든요. 영화제는 쌍방향적인 소통이 가능한 공간이라면 보다 많은 이제 각자 개개인 창작자가 될 수 있는 시기가 될 수 있지 않을까. 물론 부작용도 있죠. 뭐 요즘 아프리카 TV에 뭐 나도 방송해요 하는 분들이 하는 방송이 다 좋은 건 아니잖아요. 그렇지만 이미 이건 거스를 수 없다. 누구나가 카메라를 들고 자기 발언을 할 수 있을 것이다. 그래서 저는 아까 이제 말씀하신 그 홈 무비 아카이빙이라든가 이런 얘기들의 맥락도 그런 면에서 쭉 역사화하면서 저희가 굉장히 깊이 자료로 찾아봐야 할 내용이라고 생각을 합니다.
Because about what you said that everybody can become right now a creator is that it's something that we have to consider too, because when we are in a film festival and we receive 2,000 short film, for example, each year, and it's not just us, it's all over the world. And it's like there's too much movies, but it's great. I mean, I cannot say you can do movies and you cannot, but there is that accessibility to produce and to make films with just a cell phone today that spread the way to do cinema in different places and contexts too. So yeah, I guess that must be harder for filmmakers to be in competition with so much people to have a place in theaters or just only in platforms so the film can travel. So yeah, that's something that we have to consider today.
저는 그런 면에서 정말 상상할 수 없는 일들이 벌어질 수도 있다라고 생각합니다. 왜냐하면 저는 어렸을 때 이런 세상이 오리라고 생각을 못 해봤는데 지금 이런 세상인 것이고, 코로나 팬데믹 때 저는 청소년 감독들의 영화 공모에서 그 선정된 경쟁력에 올라온 청소년 감독들은 다른 도시로 이동할 수 없었기 때문에 메타버스 상영관에서 관객과의 대화를 진행을 했거든요. 그런 방식으로 관객과의 대화를 진행할 때 이게 또 새로운 경험이 되는 게, 관객들은 각자 아바타를 만들어가지고 자기가 영상적이 돼서 대화에 참여를 하는 거예요. 그러면서 이 방식 안에서, 그런데 지금은 또 아무도 메타버스 안 하거든요. 그러니까 이런 것들이 막 흘러나가는데, 저는 그래서 영화제가 더 중요한 이유는 어떤 것들이 너무 보편화되면 하향평준화되거나 저급해질 수 있습니다. 그런데 좋은 영화제는 그럴 때 이것이 좋은 영화고 이것이 예술이다라는 것들을 공유하면서 이 사회 전반의 문화적인 수준을 같이 손잡고 끌어올릴 수 있다고 생각합니다.
네, 그러면 두 번째 세션 여기서 마무리하겠습니다. 네, 수고하셨습니다. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is 니시타니. I am studying of East Asian film and programmer in two film festival. And I come from the Fukuoka city, very near from Busan. And thank you very much for Busan International Short Film Festival and this forum members and staff. My comments and my English is not enough, so I would be very happy if I could introduce some case studies which I was inspired by Dr. Doriswami's studies. Dr. Doriswami's studies detailing reveals how the new technology has changed the relationship between new and old media through analysis of the film of 3 film directors. It is very clear and easy to understand discussion. Detailed studies was conducted on cultural formation such as cultural heritage, science, discourse, and genre. This is a very important and very effective method of analysis when considering the overall theme of this forum, Ecologies of cinema and understanding new films in the future. And Dr. Discussing the common theme of reality and unreality and reality and fantasy in the films of these 3 directors. And I completely agree with these studies, in particular these sections in Crystal and Cosmos and the Image of Time were very impressive. And I immediately remembered that these films of 2 directors. The films were shot in the city of Fukuoka, where I live. Takashi Ito is a Fukuoka person and producing experimental films including Spicy, which he made it during his student days. He's a very famous experimental filmmaker. Ito created works in Tokyo, Kyoto, and university professor. He exploring the consisting theme of life and death, reality and illusion in his film. And even after the transition from analog to digital technology, he continues to have a great influence on many Japanese video creators. And I think the Spacey is an image that suggests the next era from crystal to cosmos. Ito said, movies can create a unique and mysterious space in which an unrealistic world is perceived as a vivid reality in itself. My main theme is to use the images to create a process that draws the viewers into the wire loop of paranormal illusions, triggered by the shocking movement from an everyday scene. And next, I would like to introduce Chan Liu's films regarding Tarkovsky's discussion of historical formation and geopolitics. Chan Liu is a Chinese-Korean film director who represents modern times and is my mentor. I co-produced Fukuoka and managed the production of Yanagawa. These films that were created in the city of Fukuoka, where I live, were an exciting film experience in which staff and cast from 3 countries created new creators while tracing the history of East Asia, China, Korea, and Japan. In the global era, Dr. Doriswami pointed out, global production that operate across multiple continents, and the era in that sense dehomed and dispossessed of territory, engaged in the non-linear conversations. Fukuoka stories from that perspective of 3 foreigners traveling around the local city Fukuoka with fragmented long take sequences centered and as a road movie for the global era. It is an open-ended texture common to the Villa Santa Cruz Memorial. This is because they are not actively moving into the global economy and making films in foreign countries. They are what Rachel pointed out in Writing Diaspora. This is what doctors analyzed in Tarkovsky's Mirror and personal and political, the geopolitical and the East and the West, exile and the refugees, and the inability to return home. About I produced a short film project production workshop in Fukuoka in 1960s. At that time, he said to me, "I will never shoot in Thailand again," with a sad and strong tone, and talking about his idea for making a film in new cinema in Colombia. He can live in Thailand, but there are creative difficulties such as censorship, and he wanted to create in foreign countries where he had many admirers and supporters. Sorry. This diabotic ways of living as a film director such as Chan Liu and Japan University School is open-ended and open to the variety of meaning such as Memoria and Fukuoka. They continues to live on in the world film market at the international film festival such as carnivalistic spaces. This trend can be seen in concrete example in the new era filmmaking with not only film directors but also YouTubers and TikTokers who share their traveling and virtual post-style movements that seeks to confirm the significance of the existence through videos. It is also similar to a new form of video creation that is strongly conceived. Dr. presented a film that's moved toward spectacle and contemplative and philosophical films. Tarkovsky's Cuarón and Villeneuve they are away from their home countries and aspires to shooting films with a global that is in the home. Doctors pointed creating images that are more realistic than what actually happened. And new media becomes more realistic through digital reworking. Fans and anime and games, they are trying to actually participate in the world and live their life. I want to talking about the tourism and in film culture. In Japan, many universities, arts and humanities faculty getting smaller and smaller these days. It has become difficult to simply place film studies in faculty of arts of humanities, and there is a strong tendency to reposition it within tourism studies, such as inbound tourism effects. So now I'm introducing a game, Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima is a game produced in the United States. That can be played in multiple languages and has been highly praised for its open world setting, which allows the player to move freely. Influenced by Akira Kurosawa's film, it can be enjoyed in black and white with rough quality frames in the Kurosawa mode setting, and the characters are named after famous Japanese film actors. In focus on the fandom and academic fun that Henry Jenkins pointed out regarding participatory culture in the digital age in a convergence culture where old and new media collided. Academic fans and not limited to people belonging to the universities and educational institutions and critics, but also ordinary bloggers and fans who have detailed knowledge and can understand and utilize it in more detail than the writers and producers and can influence subsequent stories decisions. Locations that has become anime filming location has becoming tourist attractions. New business has been created in the abandoned areas due to fan tourism, and fans seeking to ensure authenticities are begun living in the area, interacting with a fantasy world, living a real daily life. In the narrative format of the game, open world philosophical and meditative works similar to the open-ended formats of Tarkovsky and Willositepur and Chan Takashi Ito. The reason why we are developing a device that uses new technology to construct stories and keeps the stories alive without being buried as closed text for the consumer and audience. With the presence of new media, stories and audiences are renewing a more active dialogue than ever before. Finally, I want to introduce the official poster design for this year's Cannes Film Festival. Is dedicated to the Akira Kurosawa's Rhapsody in August, and I was very moved. The location of this movie is in Nagasaki Prefecture, the same as Tsushima Island. Do Kurosawa's past works shows an image of feeling sad about the current confusion world and hoping for the future peace and the connection between people. Thank you very much. 감사합니다.
네, 니시타니 카오루 선생님께서 질문을 구체적으로 주시진 않으셨지만 교수님께서 또 카오루 선생님의 말씀을 듣고 추가적으로 하시고 싶은 말씀이 있으신지요? 네.
Thank you, Professor Kaoru Nishitani, for deepening and elaborating and giving fresh new insights into my paper. I'm really grateful for that. I can't really immediately reply to the films that you have mentioned, because I have not seen any of those films, nor do I know anything about the game that you spoke about. But I think I can say just a few things in response to what you said. I think that you're very right that that there is a whole industry that gets set up, whether this is again part of globalization and the world that we are living in, that the entertainment industries are conglomerates with other industries. They're all working hand in glove. They are complementing each other. So if you have, it's never just the film industry alone. It is film industry plus all the other industries for production, screening, etc. Plus other allied industries such as beauty, cosmetic, surgery, and so many other industries which come together. And the same, I think, is true even of the gaming industry. It is said that the gaming industry really also began because of the military industrial complex, which needed certain kinds of possibilities to be worked out, and many of these games and the gaming, much of the gaming industry actually came out of that. So the industries are all working in tandem with each other, and those roots really have to also be studied and analyzed, how all these various industries, including those of fandom, because fandom too is a very big industry. In fact, they have led to, as you yourself pointed out, many studios and other places becoming tourist spot, and including the game that you referred to, which you say has become a kind of tourist spot. And it's very interesting that the game you referred to becomes actually a kind of borderless world where so many countries come together And this, in fact, is again probably a very East Asian thing, because one of the first films in this, I would say, is Ang Lee's Crouching Tiger, which actually refers and brings together industries from Hong Kong, Taiwan, and mainland China. So this is extremely interesting that you create these spaces of imagination which are borderless, or which have multiple communities that can live from various countries, and the very question of the nation and the state are all brought into kind of ellipsis. Also, I think the first bit that you mentioned of the Chinese Korean filmmaker and the earlier one, Spacey, the person who made Spacey, I think this is also to do with a certain notion of what constitutes the avant-garde in a way. So you have the actual avant-garde, which is what is canonized, but you also have other kinds of avant-gardes around, where which are breaking ground in so many very ways, and which are giving us images that we would not have seen before. So thank you very much for commenting and giving us such insights into this Japanese cinema, so much of it, and other cinemas from East Asia.
질문이 있으시면 하도록 하겠습니다.
일단 저는 그 발제자 선생님께는 장유일 감독이든 아피차퐁라스파크 감독이든 그들의 영화가 뉴 내러티브와 뉴미디어 안에서 디호밍이 아니라 또 어떤 경우에는 예를 들어서 이제 엉클분미 같은 경우에는 태국 찾기, 태국화되기, 뭐 이렇게 그 오히려 파인딩 홈 아니면은 파인딩 루트라는 느낌도 있었고, 장유일 감독님의 경계라든가 뭐 두만강 같은 영화도 끊임없이 한국으로 돌아오려는, 그러니까 자신이 살아보지도 않은 한국을 찾는 그런 류의 영화들이 있었는데, 그런 부분들, 그러니까 아피차폰 같은 경우에는 특히 엉클북미에서는 굉장히 고전적인 특촬물 영화의 방식, 그러니까 뉴미디어 방식이 아니라 올드미디어의 방식을 쓰는 부분들이 있잖아요. 그런 부분들이 지금 말씀하신 그 크리스탈에서 코스모스로라는 거 안에서 어떻게 해석이 될 수 있는지 조금 더 통찰력 있게 한 번 더 지평을 열어주셔서 설명을 해주셨으면 감사하겠습니다. 또 이제 그 토론자 선생님께서는 그 게임 동영상을 얘기를 하셨는데요. 지금 그 고스트라는 게임은 제가 해보지 않았지만은 그런 류의 플레이스테이션 게임의 경우에는 단순히 그것이 영상으로만 존재하는 것이 아니라 게임 플레이어가 그 어떤 그 게임기 안에 자기가 그걸 작동시키는 데서 실제로 몸을 사용하면서 연기를 하게 되는 부분들이 저는 굉장히 재미있게 느껴졌는데, 그런 류의 그 게임 서사는 그러니까 레디 플레이어 원 같은 영화에서도 좀 이렇게 인용이 되기는 했었지만은, 현재 게임 산업의 발전이 그런 영상들을 단순히 게임 영상이 아니라 얼마나 1인칭 서사로 만들고 있는지, 그 부분에 대해서 조금 더, 일본이 게임이 굉장히 발전한 나라니까 그런 부분에 대해서 조금 더 이렇게 풀어서 그 게임의 1인칭 서사의 롤플레잉이라는 부분들이 혹시 좀 더 얘기가 될 수 있으면 설명을 듣고 싶습니다.
Thank you for your question, but I'm afraid I really can't give too many comments on it, because I've not seen any of the films that Professor Nishitani referred to. But I understand your point that if there are films that are about being dehomed, which is a kind of new condition, it's a kind of a postmodern condition where I feel at least that Veera Sithikul's films are very different, because he really, at least this one, Memoria, where he's it's about some narrative which is about aliens in a country on a different continent. It has nothing really very much to do with Thailand, but yes, it does have to do with the politics of Colombia in a very abstract way. There are references to that. There is this entire sequence, for instance, where there is a sound like a gunshot, and there's this man who's completely terrified and lies down, but in a few minutes he just gets up and walks away also. So, it's these kind of indirect political comments are there on the situation within Latin America. But I would say still that this particular film is really about being dehomed, whereas not all science fiction films are about that, as we see with Gravity or even with Tarkovsky's science fiction films. But yes, at the same time, I think under globalization, if there is this tendency towards transnationalism and dehoming, in a sense, cosmopolitanism, dehoming, there is also the parallel tendency, which is the contradictory tendency of trying to find one's roots all the time, trying to find a home, trying to find identities. And identity has actually become a very important question in many of these films. The very fact that Cuarón has to refer to some Inuits, as part of the pre-modern history of mankind, because that's the kind of past that he goes into in Gravity. Or the fact that, Tarkovsky is a lot about identity. In fact, the entire central segment hitches on the letter that, I'm sure you've all seen it, on the letter that Pushkin wrote to Chadaev in 1836, saying that, Russia is neither east nor west, and the division of the churches and so on. So there's this whole debate about home, which is actually a search for roots, a search for identity, which is also there in a parallel movement, and particularly so under globalization. This search for home can be, how shall I put it? It can be a progressive, embracing search for home, or it can sometimes also be extremely destructive. So, just as dehoming can be compassionate and benign, and it at the same time can be extremely violent, in the same way, the search for home can also be an embracing one or a terribly violent one under globalization. I think this is what really characterizes, and the films that we see today are increasingly dealing with these themes. Thank you.
I very agree with Doctor's reaction, answer, and I also thinking about that changing and continuing is a very important for the next cinema's situation. And for example, Weera Setakuru and Chan Liu's film. Chan Liu's very changing many locations, Korea and Mongolia, Japan and China, and next one that he said me to know, I don't know. And that's all. Thank you.
네, 오늘 포스트 시네마의 시대라는 큰 주제 하에 오늘 세 분의 발제가 있었습니다. 영화제, 온라인 영화제를, 그리고 아카이브 영화제는 독특한 포맷을 운영하고 계시는 우리 파울로 시모니 선생님이 아주 실용적인, 실질적인 프랙티컬한 그 내용의 발제가 있었고요. 또 이한 선생님께서 영화 역사를 이렇게 통시적으로 살펴보면서 포스트 시네마의 특징들, 이런 것들, 또 그 안에서 영화의 의미들 또 얘기해 주셨습니다. 그리고 우리 가시미 도리스와미 님께서 아주 미학적인 차원에서 또 이 포스트 시네마 특징들을 설명해 주셔서 다채롭게 우리가 이 포스트 시네마에 대해 생각해 볼 수 있는 기회가 되지 않았나 싶습니다. 네, 끝까지 객석을 지켜주신 여러분, 그리고 오늘 발제해 주시고 토론해 주신 모든 분들께 감사하다는 말씀드립니다. 수고하셨습니다. Thank you very much.